Всем привет! Спасибо, что заглянули на канал Простые вещи. Скоро начинаются праздники, Новый год, поэтому сегодня мы будем разговаривать о шампанском. Fabien, have you ever heard about Soviet champagne?
Heard about it but never tasted it. Is it good?
I will bring you next time.
Okay,
You're not gonna
cool.
like it?
So santé.
Фабьяну можно простить, что он никогда не пробовал дорогого нашему сердцу, но такого неправильного советского шампанского, потому что Фабьян француз. Вместе с партнерами он производит настоящее шампанское. А как мы знаем, шампанским может называться только игристое вино, произведенное в провинции Шампань по методу шампинуа. Вот только о нем мы сегодня и поговорим. Каву и просекко оставим для другого выпуска. В Шампане у ребят есть свои виноградники и небольшое производство. Выпускают они около 15 тысяч бутылок в год. Производят они не обычное, а винтажное шампанское. Винтажное значит, что в бутылке находится урожай одного определенного и, как правило, удачного года. Если вам встретится шампанское, на бутылке которого год не указан, то, скорее всего, это композиция нескольких лет. Что тоже неплохо, но винтажное ценится несколько выше и хранится дольше, а значит, может стать инвестицией. Вообще, отвечая на вопрос, почему шампанское такой дорогой напиток, важно понимать, что только себестоимость винограда для производства одной бутылки будет не меньше 10 евро. Плюс сама бутылка, пробка, работа, ну и имя региона, конечно, дорого стоит. Поэтому даже в самой Франции цены за бутылку простого шампанского начинаются от 20-25 евро, и на винтажные образцы заканчиваются где-то в бесконечности. Фабьян мой друг, и сегодня я к нему пришла, чтобы он нам с вами рассказал самые главные вещи, которые нужно знать при выборе шампанских вин.
Champagne is a term we use. Most of the time it's used correctly, sometimes it's used incorrectly, wrongly, in the sense that some people are calling champagne just a sparkling wine. But like champagne needs to come from champagne and needs to be made a very specific way. You make a wine, then you put the bubbles in the wine. So, okay, that's one way. You make a wine, then you create naturally or in some way you induce the creation of bubbles. For that, you've got different ways. With the use of yeast, you create the second fermentation. You use the yeast directly in the vat where the wine is, and then you put the sparkling wine in bottle. Or the same way as we do in champagne, is that like you do your wine, so first fermentation, then you put the wine in the bottle, and then at the same time you put some yeast directly in the bottle, and you create the second fermentation. So it's what we call bottle fermented. That's very specific to champagne, or actually very specific to what we call the méthode champenoise or méthode classico or méthode traditionnelle. The key point to remember is that like we induce the second fermentation directly inside the bottle in which the wine is going to be sold in. So it makes it very hard labor and also more expensive. All sparkling wines are wine, and of course all champagne are wines, and that's why we always say wines of Champagne, the same way we say wines of Burgundy. It's an appellation. There's also this kind of cliche of like, oh, champagne is for New Year's Eve, champagne is for birthday, champagne is for celebration, and champagne is actually for pretty much every day. The three main grapes are Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. Chardonnay, white grape, white juice. Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, red grape, white juice. So at the end of the day, the juice is always white. But those are the three main grapes. 97 or 98% of the Champagne region is planted with those. I think Pinot Meunier represent about 40% or 45% of the plantation, and the Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are splitting up the rest. Pinot Noir is perfectly fit for the champagne growing and to be used. And again, that's one of the three main grapes. So if we get rid of the Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier, then you use only Chardonnay, and it's beautiful. Like, so this is a Blanc de Blanc. Blanc de Blanc, so white of white. Why? Because remember, Chardonnay, white grape, white juice. So white, blanc de blanc means white or white, so it's 100% Chardonnay. You can also have like a blanc de noir, so to your point, where you use none of the Chardonnay, but blanc de noir, so white of black, so only black grape. Okay, I tasted the Brut 2004, but that was my first time before I tasted the rosé. But right away I felt, okay, that was the same kind of style. Yeah. And we're talking about style. So when you make a wine, and especially a vintage, and at the end of the day, the result is not up to, not necessarily the standards, but like what you expect your cuvée to reflect in terms of style. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just better not to use it under that name, or not to use it at all, and just to use it for wines or reserves. So you always kind of like, otherwise you're gonna surprise your fans or your clients. Mm-hmm. So you need to follow some kind of coherence for that. The Brut, Extra Brut, Brut Nature, Demi-Sec, you can go with different style, different level of sweetness. A Brut Zero is actually what in theory got the least amount of sugar. Brut Nature is a little bit higher, but still it's very dry. Then you've got Extra Brut, still very dry because it's below 6 grams of sugar per liter. And then you've got the Brut, I would say category. A lot of people think that an Extra Brut is overly dry, and which, if it's well done, it's not overly dry. So that's actually a good way when you go to see a wine store and you ask for something, for a champagne, and if you mention, I want something really dry, and that person is giving you a demi-sec, then something is off, because demi-sec is actually pretty high in terms of sugar. Cheers again, always in the eyes when you cheer. Whatever you do when you taste a wine, you should do it the same way with champagne. Always look at the bubbles, so the smallest the better, of course, but it also depends on the glass. And then the nose, of course, then the palate, and then the finish.
But tell me about the bubbles, because it must be something important about the bubbles. Do we have to have a lot of bubbles, or just one little line of bubbles?
What's very important is to have small bubbles. Why? Because imagine you have big bubbles. All the aromas coming to your nose are coming from those bubbles, and the explosion at the surface of those bubbles. Mm-hmm. So if you've got big bubbles, you've got big aromas all at once popping out. The same amount of aromas, but split up in 10 instead of one bubble, mm-hmm. You're gonna have much more refined and elegance to your wine. So the older the wine, in theory, the smallest the bubbles are gonna be.
На этом, пожалуй, все. Спасибо, что досмотрели до конца, и до встречи в наших следующих выпусках. Чин-чин!